right, so we'll get started on making our golden paste. Technically, you only need a few ingredients. I have some optional ones, so you'll of course need your turmeric. Um, you'll need pepper. I'm going to use this papali. Ooh, it's from from India. It's also called long pepper. So the pepper looks like this before it's crushed. You can, of course, just use your regular black pepper. And it is best to get the whole peppercorns and then grind them yourself. So like this one comes in a grinder, which is pretty handy. You could also, if you're like me, go to your local thrift store and probably find a great little coffee grinder for a couple dollars. That works well for doing spices. Or you can use a mortar and pestle. So I got this last year for Christmas. So that's, I just like to do it just to have a little bit more connection with my food. So we're going to grind our own pepper for this recipe, just so it's nice and fresh. You need a fat. I'm going to use ghee. This is ghee that I made here. Maybe you saw the video. It's from raw local cow's milk. Or clarified butter. So I'm going to use that. You could very easily use coconut oil, which is actually what most recipes online have you use is coconut oil. If you don't like the taste of coconut, you can get the refined version. So this one, if you see, it says refined expeller pressed coconut oil. So it does not taste like coconut. So this is a good one to use. If you don't mind, get the unrefined coconut oil, and that's fine too. But you do need a fat source, and ghee is a nice way for me to make this a little bit more local. Our optional ingredients are ginger. So I have some nice ground ginger here, some cinnamon, and this is lovely. I'll put a link for this beautiful cinnamon below. Cardamom, because I love cardamom. You don't have to use that. The ginger and the cinnamon are warming spices. So you see them a lot in our winter foods or fall foods. So they actually have a warming effect. So that's always nice to add into a golden paste, especially if you're going to use it to make golden milk. And then our other ingredient that I need to grab is honey. And if you're vegan, you could use maple syrup. So the first thing we need to do is measure out our turmeric, and the recipe calls for 4 ounces, and that is by weight, not by volume. So if you were to use a half cup measure, which most of us think of as a 4-ounce scoop, it would be shy. We need to have a little bit more. So if you have a scale, that's the best route to go. I'm going to place my pot on the scale and then zero out the measurement. And then let me switch this to ounces. And then I'll just scoop in until it reads 4 ounces. Okay, and so hopefully you can see here this is 4 ounces. And this is a pretty good sized pot, so significantly more than a half a cup. So very important to measure by weight if possible. And then just to kind of show, I know this is a liquid measuring cup, but just to kind of show how much more it is than a half a cup. There's still a little bit in there, but it's probably closer to 3/4 of a cup. So if you happen to not have a scale at home, you might try 3/4 of a cup of turmeric. Might equal about 4 ounces. So our next step is to add our water. I added 1 cup of room temperature water to this, and we'll whisk it together to start before we apply heat, so that mixes well. And then we need to cook this for about 7 minutes. just over a low heat, low flame here. We'll just heat this up. And it's pretty thick, so we can add up to another cup of water if we need to. One thing about turmeric, it stains very easily, so you kind of want to be careful with what you're wearing and putting the turmeric on a counter, or you'll end up with yellow spots that might not come out. It's finishing up the 7 minutes of cooking, and you can see it's really absorbed a lot of the water, so it's quite thick, and we'll be adding to this. So first thing we'll add is the fat, and like I said, I'm using ghee, but you could use coconut oil, of course. Those two are shelf stable. If you were to use a different kind of oil, it might not last as long, and this does make quite a bit. So I melted my ghee just to make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to add a half a cup of fat. So whether it's ghee or coconut oil, I'm just add that right in. Turn off my timer. So a half a cup of our fat. And then since I'm making this for me, I am going to add a half a cup of honey. I'm using a locally sourced honey. So I traded some freshly roasted coffee that I made here at Mutiny Ranch for this beautiful local honey from Mountain Meadow. So nice raw product, raw and local. So we'll add a half a cup of honey. That way I won't have to sweeten my golden milk when I make it. And just add that directly in. And mix those two in there. And then, of course, a very important ingredient is our pipali, or black pepper. There's some scientific studies that shows that it increases the absorption of turmeric by, I want to say like 2,000%, so something dramatic. So basically, if you don't add the pepper, the turmeric will just go through your system, and you won't get the anti-inflammatory benefits or all the other benefits that are listed. So I just ground mine with the mortar and pestle. We're going to put a tablespoon of freshly ground pepper. I think I was just a little shy. So fresh ground pepper, 1 tablespoon will be added. And then I'm going to add the spices that I like, and the warming spices that are good for this time of year. It is winter right now when I'm recording this. So to this I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of cinnamon and 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, and I like cardamom, so 1 teaspoon of cardamom. We'll give that a stir, combining all those spices into a beautiful turmeric paste. So in Ayurveda, you would take a teaspoon in warm milk, maybe around dinner time or right before bed. You could take actually up to 3 teaspoons a day for the anti-inflammatory properties. So I'm just going to jar this up in a couple of mason jars, and then put it in the fridge. It'll last a couple of weeks, and it'll just be easy to use. So it's nice to have this pre-made so that you don't have to pull out all of your spices and cook your golden paste every night. You can just take this right out of the fridge. So the way I like to make golden milk is super simple. I use milk frother, and I just pour the milk of choice into my milk frother. Today I happen to be using some coconut milk. And then I add in my golden paste. And I just kind of eyeball it. And then turn on the frother. And the frother heats the milk and mixes it all at the same time and froths it. Of course, you could do this on the stove and you don't have to froth your milk. And you can just pour it right into your glass or mug. And enjoy your golden milk.